What's up, everybody? Another wonderful Monday night at Chewin the BBQ Fat. Man, I hope you all have enjoyed the past couple weeks. We're getting ready for Christmas. You know, we got to hear what the ladies want. Got to get that poker stoker. And you've also heard what the guys want. Once again, the poker stoker. That seems to be the Christmas gift of the year. If you haven't got one of those, you need to look into it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the past couple shows, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But man, Christmas is right around the corner. Ellen will tell me to tell you something about shipping times. I don't know if they're out or not. You might still have a little bit of time left to get your orders in. I don't know. She put something out on Facebook. Check that out. If you need something, go ahead and order it. Gift cards are always a great stocking stuffer, and looking forward to it. Like the page, share the page. We got a great show tonight. But before all that, Robert, my main man, how are you doing?
I am doing fine. How about you?
Oh, wonderful. Guess what, guys? I got an agenda tonight. And if you've noticed, we have started just a little bit early, or right on time, you could say. And I'm telling you.
Man, I'm telling you, an agenda and you're early.
I mean, guys, if you can, do everything you can to get Robert to come on every week so that we can keep this happening. This is what makes it good. I heard you pop the top a second ago. What do you have drinking here?
You know what? Every Chewin the BBQ Fat show, the first person I think of besides you, Brian Jarvis, is Wes Garrett. So I had to have a Sunny D vodka seltzer in his honor, because that's what Wes would drink. There you go.
Definitely be true.
There he's name 3 times.
I mean, you just say his name and he pops up. Is that
I'm telling you?
What is that? What is that, Robert? For Wes, somebody like Wes who wouldn't know what that could be. What is that? That light going on in the background?
That is the Madison Rail Yard Grand Champion Trophy that has great lights, and it says Madison Rail Yard, but it doesn't say that it's anything other than that.
So what about you?
It could be the Agenda Writers Trophy, and you wouldn't know. I can tell you that's what it is.
I hear you. Well, he only drinks 15-year bourbon. We know that's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of bourbon, we got a couple bourbon guys on tonight. But looking forward to the show. I was approached by a couple people if we could do a roundtable with the KCBS nominees. The voting period or whatever is coming up in January. I don't know all the details. We'll get into that, and y'all can let us know when it starts. But I want to make sure that we have everything. I tried. I'm going to tell you right now, I tried to reach out to everybody I could in my way of doing it, and I failed miserably at getting 2 people on. So we do not have Stephen and we do not have Philip on. I apologize. So, but who we do have on are great, and they're going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be a good it's going to be a good night speaking. Robert, is there anything you want to say before we get rolling?
No, glad to be here, man.
Glad to be here. We've already got 3 appearances.
And Wes is on. What more could I want? And I'm drinking his favorite seltzer drinks.
Yeah, you're drinking a Sunny D. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring in these guys on one at a time and just leave them on, and then we're going to start talking and go from there. So please, we've got questions that we've got. Robert loves all of our questions. I do have a great agenda for tonight. What's up, Carrie? Got a great agenda for the night, but we are also going to open it up to questions from the audience. So we will have a time for that. I just added that into the agenda. Robert doesn't know about that, but I added it in, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome. So without anything else, let's get ready to roll.
Things never change.
I mean, you know.
Hey, real quick, voting is December 26th to January 9th.
The 26th through January 9th.
Yes.
Make sure you vote.
That's the voting window. So make sure you vote.
There you go.
Thank you.
And who are we going to be voting for? Lex had to do that. Lex had to give us that information.
She's prepared. She's off. She's off camera. Ready.
Oh, love this. I love this. All right, let's go ahead and start with Paul. Paul, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. We're traveling. We're at a beautiful Hardee's in Havana, Illinois.
That's what I'm talking about. That is dedication, guys. Pulling over, traveling at a Hardee's, eating dinner, and coming on Chewin the BBQ Fat. I love it, Paul. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from?
Born and raised out of Peoria, Illinois. Now I'm currently 18 miles north of there in Chillicothe, Illinois.
Okay. And what made you decide to run for the KCBS board?
Well, a few of my friends would say a lack of common sense. But, I would have said no a year ago. And in fact, I had 2 or 3 people call and say, if I nominated you, would you run? And I said no. And then they kept calling and saying, well, and so I actually sat down, spent a week thinking about it, and realized some of the things that I did at Caterpillar probably would help us, right? Putting a little more structure into how we decide to do things, maybe a little more focus on strategic planning, a little more on the vision planning. So I had the job at Caterpillar was a strategy job. So working with the product groups, I wasn't the expert on their products, but we were able to facilitate that and kind of drive out the agendas and then start working that down into portfolios where we'd allocate funds based on the projects that were, so to speak, shovel ready. And we'd come up with strategy that would bias towards certain outcomes, so clearly, we need money in KCBS right now. So growth was kind of my thought is let's sit down and figure out what we want to be and figure out how we get there.
Sounds good. Love it. Robert, I'm gonna let you introduce the next one. I'm gonna bring in Brian.
Brian, I don't even know how to pronounce your last name.
It's Sudduth.
Sudduth. From Dayton, Ohio, just to let you know.
You're from Dayton.
You go ahead and talk about why you decided to run for a KCBS board member.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the newer guys in the room. I've only been here about 8 years, primarily as a judge. But I come from a background of nonprofit management. My graduate degree is in public administration and communications, and spent a lot of time in the corporate world on strategy, on communication. And that's where I see the biggest problem with KCBS, from my point of view, is there's a lot of mystery around process, a lot of mystery around the way things are done. And I don't come from the point of view that it's done intentionally to deceive. It's just a lack of ability or a lack of knowledge to better communicate. And I come from a nonprofit background. Like I said, I'm a certified nonprofit professional. I've worked with boards, building boards, developing boards, as well as directing staff of nonprofits. I work in a quasi-government nonprofit area now and leading that board and staff. And so I just felt that similar to what Bob or what Paul just said about lending that professional experience to the organization that we love so much. Same thing here. I have this skill set that I think can be of use to the board. It's a different perspective. Somebody who's maybe newer to it. I'm not a competitor yet. Someday, Paul lets me hang around on occasion, but someday I'll compete. But right now, my time and talents are available, and some folks had asked about it. As we communicate online, and that's the reason. I think that we can build more buy-in and more consensus from the membership if we're still more transparent and use the tools that we have. We have this website monster out there that we're not leveraging, I think, to its full capacity, and I think our staff would benefit from some more support from the board on these areas that they're struggling with every day.
Love it. Sounds good. David Qualls, how you doing, my man? You're muted real quick. There we go.
Hey, fellas. How's everybody?
Very good. Very good.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, David.
Well, I'm David Qualls from Tecumseh, Oklahoma. That's about 30 miles southeast Oklahoma City. Lifelong resident there. I served on the board one term previously a couple of years ago, and I've cooked almost 260 contests since 2008. We got really strong into it 2012 going forward. Got 30 grands, 20 some reserves. So I'm been around the barbecue trail a lot, and having sat on the board and stuff. So that's kind of my background. My team's called the American Dream Barbecue Team.
So you just said that you've been on the board before, and now you're running again.
Yes.
What makes you want to run again?
Well, a lot of reasons. I was approached, I was like, okay, I've done my thing. And everybody says you're crazy to do it again. But I got approached, by 3 or 4 very good friends that in different parts of the nation that said, listen, Dave, we're kind of going backwards. We're losing ground with contests. There's not a sponsor's name on anything that we do. The World Invitational, Team of the Year, nothing. We're losing our sponsorship again. And a couple of the board members that are sitting now even said, listen, this board's very young and they need somebody with some more tenure. And so I said, well, I'll think about it. And I thought about it, and then I thought, well, then I got nominated and got a call and said, you've been nominated. And so I filled out the questionnaire, and obviously it looks like I passed the vetting process, whatever that was. And now I'm a candidate. I think everybody, Paul and Brian, who spoke before already, touched on some very strong things. KCBS needs some strategy. They need to create some revenue. We need to reassociate ourselves with all 3 parts of our customers, our sponsors, our judges, our teams, and get barbecue to going again, because it's a sport and a passion here that can easily be forgotten if we don't keep it on the front burner, if you will, since we're talking flames. And we have to keep barbecue on the front burner all the time. And so we can't lose sight of that. It's really easy, knowing, have sat on the board and went through the plague, if you will, of COVID and stuff, that it's really easy to get lost in the forest by seeing nothing but trees. And we bounced back and survived that, but now it seems like we're regressing and we don't have a pandemic to blame it on. So we got to step up and do some things. And there looks like there's a good slate of competent candidates to help with that issue.
Sounds good. Love it. All right. And the last one that we have, Thomas Gerhardt, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Thomas Gerhardt. I live in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, about 20 minutes outside Nashville. I've been cooking barbecue since 2015. I love this sport. I love this organization. I love the people. With all due respect to the gentleman on this call and the current board, I feel like there's no stronger advocate for our membership than me. Membership has to be at the core of everything that KCBS does and everything that who KCBS is. And so I felt like, after I've been a member since 2015. And so after, 7 or 8 years of kind of sitting on the sidelines and watching things, I thought maybe it's time that I get involved. I had an opportunity to serve on the board of directors for the California Barbecue Association for a few years when I lived out in Cali, and learned a lot from that team out there, and excited and happy to offer whatever I can to KCBS.
I love it. I love it. Real quick, I'm going to just ask a question, Robert. This is not on the agenda, but I know it. It's terrible.
Things never change, I'm telling you.
Golly, because I just thought of something, and it was something I should have asked at the beginning. But real quick, each one of you, Paul, I'll start with you. What is KCBS to you?
Well, I know we all say it, but it's family. It really is, right? I mean, now that's the colloquial answer, but that family is really in kind of a concerning state financially. If you look at the numbers, our family is about half of what it used to be, right? If you go look at our peak number of teams competing, we're at about 55% of our peak, right? I hear COVID. Yeah, I get it. Inflation, I get it. Those were real. They're past us. We have to deal with what we're given. So, but it is family, and it's a business as well, right? And we can't run it like a family business. We have to run it like a business, right? So we really have to do all those things to impassionately get people back aboard, find other ways to get people aboard, right? This family doesn't grow if we don't treat this like a business. And all the processes, we got to survey our customers. We got to do things like that. It is just, it's family, but we have to treat it like a business.
Gotcha. Thomas, what do you think, KCBS? Just quick KCBS. What is it?
Yeah, just to add to what Paul said. So I think you can take saying it's family one step further, and you can say it's relationships, right? So it's relationships between the cooks and the judges and the organizers and the cooks and the organizers and the cooks amongst ourselves. So in addition to being family, like it's relationship built, it's relationship kind of centric. And in addition to that, KCBS is an institution, right? And at one point, KCBS was on a pedestal as the premier barbecue organization in the country. We've lost that for a number of different reasons, some of which Paul talked about already. But we've got to get KCBS back on that pedestal on the national level.
Sounds good. David?
KCBS was an escape from reality for me. It gave us a new pastime. We met people, obviously the family aspect. It let us satisfy our competitive juices and let's go out and compete. Let's do something. I'm a little too old, I'm a little too big to play basketball or football or tennis. Don't have the attention capacity to be a golfer, but cooking barbecue was a lot of fun. And got to travel, got to meet people, got to grow both personally and professionally. I didn't professionally grow as much as a lot of people did, but just it was good. And that's what I miss most about it. And I think that's what a lot of people do. Now, to be able to keep that ship running, it's a business. It has to be run like a business, and it has to stay on top of the things. Yes, KCBS was the premier barbecue association or standard. They still are, in my opinion, they still are. But we just need to get the curtains cleaned a little bit, get the carpets shampooed, and get back to business of where we were. And that's just going to take a group of guys that are ready to roll up their sleeves and get after it.
Love it. Thank you, David. Brian?
It'd be easy to say what Thomas and Paul said just about the people and the family, and that's true. I've made some great friends and relationships, but for me, it's this bit of American nostalgia. I come to KCBS because I happened to stand in line one morning for barbecue at Joe Pierce's place at Slaps and saw the trophies. And then went across town. I was there on a guy's trip for eating barbecue in Kansas City, ended up in Q39 looking at the trophies and meeting Philip behind the bar. And it's before I ever became a judge and got involved in KCBS, I was a barbecue tourist. Not like Ryan up in Omaha, but similar. I've been to the cities and been in the pits from Lexington to Kansas City and Austin and Buda and love that part of what KCBS does for the history of the art of barbecue. And I really dig that part. And for me, it's real nostalgia. And it's a place where guys like me, that's just a backyard cook in Dayton, Ohio, who loves history barbecue, can hang out with those names we see on TV. And it doesn't matter. There is this leveling of the brotherhood around this history of putting meat over fire. And I just dig the shit out of that. And I wish it was deeper than that. And it's really not. Like, I love to show up at a place late at night in a small town somewhere in North Carolina or Texas or outside of Memphis and hang out in the pits and see how these people have done this for generations and see how that has evolved to something totally different on the competition side. And I just dig everything about it. And I'm just a barbecue guy who fell into this thing where you get to do what you love and hang out with these really cool people and eat really cool food. And then the organization, the more I get to know it, the more I love it. And the more I think that it has the potential, like Paul said, that we're at 55% of our peak. It's not over. There's still the potential for this thing to be big. And again, and I'd like to be a part of that.
Love it. All right. Thank you all so much. That was my question. They were off the agenda. But I thought that was awesome. Thank you. Robert, were you okay with that? Were you okay with me asking that?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, good.
All out once.
Hey, guys, I love the questions, David. That's a great question. We're going to keep up with all your questions from the viewers. Y'all just keep asking. Trust me, I'll watch the comments. Y'all all know that. I'll get to them, but we've got some questions that we're going to ask these guys. We've got an agenda, and we've got stuff to get through. So we're going to go to that real quick. As we said, we've got a hat that we're going to be putting in all their names, and we're going to randomly pick out a name and then ask a question. So we want this to be as whatever, as awesome as possible, and that's what we do normally. So, Robert, I'm gonna let you roll with it.
All right. The first question goes to David. So you mentioned in your candidate questionnaire that the economy is one of the biggest challenges to KCBS in certain areas. What do you think is the biggest economic challenge and the best strategy to address it?
Well, the biggest economic challenge for KCBS as the business is securing sponsors again. The money's tight, interest is as high as we've seen it forever. And so big companies are backing off. KCBS has a good product with 13, 14,000 members still. And we have a sellable product, but we can't just do the hat in your hand sponsorship sale approach. We've got to go to these sponsors and the old ones and the new ones, the small $500 guys and the tall $50,000 guys, and say, this is what we can do for you. Here's our value for your dollar. I think the days of the gimme sponsorships are over with in barbecue of just, hey, I love barbecue. Here's $25,000. Put my name on something. I think that's a way. We've got to be a partner that carries our mark, and I'm talking not we as cooks, but we as the organization that carry the load, that bring value to those sponsorships and give them something to want to do. We've got to do something more than say we're having this torrential, horrendous team of the year race, which I was in at one time, all the way to the end, just like guys were this year. Or we have a one-shot invitational contest to put your money in. We've got to do something that covers everybody nationwide to pull back these sponsors again. And like I said, we've got to do that. The economic side of being a competitor, I don't have the answer to that today because that's the free market system. If I want to buy a choice brisket or if I want to buy Australian Wagyu, that's going to be my preference. It'd be kind of like telling Tiger, you've got to go to Walmart and buy your clubs. But from a board member standpoint, we've got to build a foundation of revenue that's more than just dues-based or sanctioning fees-based if we're going to take this back to where it was.
Quick question along those lines. With the sponsorships, is the sponsorships just helping KCBS, or is that going to go into something that, because look, we organize the contest ourselves, and sponsorship is a huge part of contest.
That's a perfect question. Thank you for that softball. KCBS is going to have to, and I've sat on this board, and I've been involved in sponsorships and stuff. We've got to, as a business, as KCBS, we can't take the lion's share off the top of the sponsorship money and say we're going to operate the office with that. We're going to pay for this big, massive building with sponsorship money, and we're going to dribble 3% back down to the teams. We've got to create it, and I say we, if we're on the board or whoever's collectively on that board, has got to create a policy that says no more than X percent of the sponsorship will be spent for operations. It's got to be spent back into the promotion or putting it into that, puts it back into the organizers' pockets, the team's pockets, the judges' pockets. And I know this may sound crazy because I'm a team, but if we can shore up organizers, everything else take care of itself. You know, and we've got to shore up our organizers. And everybody on this call had already decided they were running for office before whatever happened at the Royal and what's happened, you know, down at your place ever took effect. So, you know, nobody's on this call is running for office because the SCORE program crashed. But we're all running for office. We realize that things like the SCORE program has got to be taken care of, and that's part of that economic equation as well.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Robert?
Actually, the next question will go to Paul, and Brian, I'll let you ask that.
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, I'm putting the pressure on.
Man, I thought I got
in with your own agenda item.
I can't defer to the congressman from Ohio, can I?
Yeah. I can give my time up. All right. You talked about financial viability of contest organizers in your candidate questionnaire. What is the number one thing you feel would make contests more financially viable?
Well, I think there's a few different designs for contests, right? It kind of depends where you reside. You know, if you're in Kansas City, you've got opportunities I'm in Havana, Illinois, right? There's not as many of those exposures to KCBS in Havana, Illinois, trust me. But so you have to come up with a recipe. So organizers, the first thing I think they need is, especially the first timers, because you don't end up being a second time organizer or third if you don't succeed in the first one, right? If you bust your butt and you barely make money, or you don't get money, you do, I don't know how many months of planning, and you donate $2,000 to your charity, that might be considered a year one win, but in my mind, that's a year one loss, right? We've got to partner them up with people and resources and recipes, right? I know there's efforts going on in this space. I haven't seen anything communication-wise. That's kind of back to the point I think Thomas has mentioned, and Brian, that we got to see more communications, what we're doing to help organizers, but we've got to nurture them. We've got to partner them with a successful organizer before they get too far. I know they got to go visit a site and walk through the whole thing. That's too late. We got to get them aboard with somebody who's successful. Get him with Jason Cole. Get him with Corey. Get him with some of these people and get him exposure. And then show them there's different recipes, right? You can be heavily sponsor laden, or you can be, heavily like vendor laden, like they do in Florida at the Lakeland, right? The big pig fest where they got all the vendors everywhere. There's a few different ways to come up with an agenda, but there is no one single recipe, I think, for an organizer to be successful. And that's why we got to kind of get them with a group. And we lean a lot on the reps, and we kind of put some ropes on the reps. And I understand why, but somebody's got to be open to working with them almost full blast until they launch. So to me, it's more communication.
Love that. All right.
All right. Next question is for Thomas. You said in your candidate questionnaire, you talked about strengthening the existing membership base by celebrating tenure and rewarding loyalty. Could you expand on that? Explain what you mean by that, and how would it be achieved?
Yeah. So I work at Amazon, and we like to say we're the most employee-centric company in the world. And one of the ways that we celebrate employees every day is by celebrating tenure. Something as simple as recognizing when someone, we call it an anniversary, right? Recognizing when someone reaches a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, a 10-year milestone of their employment at Amazon does so much for that person and for our employee base as a whole. It's something so simple, and it's often overlooked in many different types of organizations. So recognizing someone's tenure as a member, right? So I'm coming up on, I don't know, somewhere around 8 or 9 years here pretty soon. I think in January I'll be 9. So recognizing members for their 9 years of loyalty, or their 15 years of loyalty, or 20 years, whatever it may be. Same thing for judges. We don't do that. When I say we, KCBS has an opportunity to be more outward with that recognition, and celebrate the membership, and celebrate cooks and judges and people like Brian who are just enthusiasts. And I love the word barbecue tourists that you use. That's so fitting for like so many of the people that enjoy barbecue all over the place. So celebrating our membership in that simple way goes such a long way in engaging membership and retaining them.
I love that.
All right.
Am I back up?
Yep. Brian obviously is the last one for that first question.
All right. Brian, you're lucky. I get to ask questions. In the candidate questionnaire, you stated that one of the areas you hear the most complaints about is communication. Can you explain what areas within KCBS that communication is an issue to membership and how it can be improved?
I think the first, ironically, is the board, the way they operate and how they operate. That the meetings, you've got to register, and just for a Zoom call, the minutes are scant. And as a guy who maintains minutes for a nonprofit, I get the reasoning behind that. Too much detail is trouble, and too vague is too vague. There's a balance, but people don't understand how the process works. Even the way that we all ended up here tonight, Tom, David, Paul, the way that we got here, it's a pretty vague, loose process that nobody really understands. We saw last year, there was an outcry when a lot of people had made some nominations that it didn't make sense, right? And there's really no clear process. the website for judges and teams, we're all on that website, watching points, registering, keeping track. There's an opportunity to use that better to take some of the mystery out of what's behind the curtain. There shouldn't be a curtain. It's a member-led organization. It's not like that we're subscribing to a service for profit. It's our organization. So finding that information, obtaining it, having access to it should not be so cumbersome. And I don't subscribe to the idea that it's intentional, that they're gating it. I think there's just some misunderstanding about the way they should handle information and the way they disperse it and the way that we consume it. As a guy that wrote copy and wrote strategic marketing plans for big companies, it's not complicated if you've been trained in it and work in it, right? Like I wouldn't dare tell Thomas how we do last mile delivery in America, right? I know a little bit about communication, and I think there's just opportunities to bring people into the fold that then allow for longer tenure. They feel like they're part of the process. They understand the process. It's not an us and them. It's a we, and we're all on the same page. And that's what's missing. I think there's this mystique about what happens on these monthly phone calls out of Kansas City by the membership, and it seems adversarial. And it doesn't need to be. There's no reason for it, and it's all because of the process and the way it's handled. I don't buy that it's malice or intentional at all, and I'll say that again and again. I just believe it's just a misguided attempt at trying to do things well and keep public comment down. But Facebook will do what Facebook does, and when there's not factual, relevant, current information out there, the judges will make it up themselves. And I've watched it, and I try to tamp it down. And I'm one of those guys that get in there, and I will call BS when it's BS and say, let's wait to hear from the people involved. And then we'll get on the phone, and I'll call those guys, and they'll get them on Facebook to set it straight. But it shouldn't take that much work. And that's what I hope to do. As a judge, I wish every contest registered through the website. I wish that the communication all went through the KCBS website. I know it's for some organizers, it's not going to happen. They like their Gmail list and their Hotmail list, and they're going to do it the way they do it. But I think that process has been built and that we've spent money on that. We should use the tools that we've invested in as much as some of those broken tools can be used.
Now, I'll say this as an organizer, and it's interesting to hear you say that. We have a judge coordinator, and our judge coordinator wanted to go through the way he did it. So as an organizer, I didn't really have an option one way or the other of how the judges signed up. And that's interesting to hear. I'll make sure that we moving forward with our contest, that if that's the best way to do it, that's the best way to do it. Like, I don't know all those details, but that's very interesting. I'd love to hear that. Robert, I'm sorry. I'm going to just hijack our agenda for a second. We've gone through our first round of questions. I'm going to ask you a couple questions from the audience, if you don't mind. And I don't really care, Robert, you can choose who answers it, but I'm going to ask the question. At a comp, it feels it feels as there is a disconnect between the teams and the judges. How can we bridge the gap between team conversations about judging and what the judges actually do at an event? I think it's a great question by David. Robert, we have this conversation a good bit, right? Like, what can we do? How can we make this happen? What do you? I'll let you ask that. I'll let you.
Well, you know what? Alex pulled the next name, so how about Paul? You answer that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the advent of all these trailers has created a virtual door, literally, right? But that doesn't mean we can't be more available. I know that I have, and I'm not saying this is a shameless plug, but I've had judges come in and help me clean up when I'm done, right? And I tell them, you don't have to do that, and they're not looking for leftovers, I've had them come by before the contest and drop off my favorite soda, Ale 8. I've had some that just wander by and chat and see the name and, oh, you're from Chillicothe, Illinois. We did that one. So the answer is, I think we should do more potluckish type things. And I know you guys, Brian, did do that. And it should be open to everyone, right? It shouldn't be a team potluck. Right? It should be more of those activities. The other key thing is I'd like to get more recognition for judges as well. We kind of have a team of the year race and all that. We have a singular nominate a judge for, the award or judge of the year or that. Why do we do one? Why can't we have something that, we'll come up with some criteria and promote them into gold, silver, platinum, or whatever, so that the judges also have something, so we can have some interaction on that. So I think some of it's just organic, though, guys, is my first answer. Is you got to be the person that wants to talk to them. And I'll be honest with you, I know there are teams that they want to focus on the cook, and they don't want to lean out and go chat. And that's going to hurt the organization. It probably already has hurt the organization. It's going to hurt it more. We have to be open. I know Dave probably remembered there was a lot of contests where they forced them to cook under canopies, and that's great because it's public focus. I'm not saying we'll go back to that, but we need to be more open as cooks. I think we're part of the problem.
I love that. You brought up our contest with this. We did the potluck on Friday night, and we had some of the judges come. That was one of the things that people came to. Some of the judges came to us. They were very thankful that we offered that, and it made me, next year when we do whatever we do, we're going to make sure that everybody knows that it's for everybody. Because I think Friday night, if the judges are there, they can come and do things. And I personally, at our contest, we're trying to do everything we can to get everybody in together, hanging out, getting it back together where we're all into this together, right? The whole barbecue thing is in this together. The judges, the cooks, the reps, everybody's in it together, and to make the best thing. So for us at our contest, and we might not do a potluck next year, we might do a dinner, but we're going to do something to have it to where people can come in and get to know each other and hang out again. Important to me, not important to everybody. I understand that, but that's important to us. All right, Robert, I didn't mean to hijack you, but I'll let you roll. And if anybody else wants to answer that question, feel free to. Or if there's anything you want to add or take away, I'd love to hear it. Anybody?
All right.
Real quick, I think Thomas hit on it earlier, and Paul just said it. I know a lot of times if I'm driving 3 or 4 hours, I don't stick around for the awards, right? I'm going to just check on the website the next day. I'm back on the highway to get back to my wife and Kat that still like me, after a weekend away. But I think there's room for what Thomas said about that recognition piece and what Paul said, find ways to include the judges in the rest of the day. And, in the judges meeting, they ask who's here for their 50th or just the 30th, 100th, 200th. And there's guys out there that have done this in 48 states and just crazy things. If you found that one judge to include them in the awards, just a recognition before you give out the trophies, then judges are going to stick around because I want to see, those guys that I know that have hit their 250 or 300. They're going to just, say something about them at the awards. I'll probably stick around maybe a little minute just to lend that to a fellow judge who I know a little bit better than I know most cooks. And, but there is a way to sort of include us. And I know I don't want to make this about judges and it's not about us at the end of the day because that awards are why the teams are there, which is why we're there.
But hey, man, you can't have
a small way.
Judges. You can only have so many teams show up. The amount of teams you can have depends on the amount of judges you get at a contest. The judges are just as important as teams. Yeah. And if people forget that, they're missing the whole point of this whole thing. Yeah. You got to have judges are just as important as anything else.
But Paul said it's organic. There are teams that welcome you to the trailer. Some don't. I can respect that, but then I just know the guys that I take around to see. And but it's on the judges, as Paul says. It's on the teams. The judges have got to get out of the judges hall and go knock on a door and say, "Hey, thanks for being here. I hope you get a call today," because we don't know. I mean, we shouldn't know, and I've never been able to tell which box I've had, but I do know there are teams out there I like to see them, and they come from far or they come from close to my hometown. It's on us to make that happen and not keep us segregated. And I love that walk in the morning before we get into the judges meeting. It's my favorite part of the weekend.
Dude, I love it. This is great. Go ahead,
Brian. I was on the board in 2020, and this issue came up because the forefront. KCBS has always told them, after the judges meeting, you can do a quick walkthrough, but don't stop, don't talk. I think I'm the one that actually wrote the judges fraternization policy that allowed judges to stop and visit with the cooks. And the only two things you couldn't do is you couldn't go inside a trailer and you couldn't eat their food. And encouraged the judges, go ahead and stop and talk to the teams. Just don't, get in the middle of what they're doing and tell the teams, hey, the judges are going to come by. I know when I always cooked down in your neck of the woods, I was looking forward to Miss Baker coming by because there's always going to be 2 cookies. And so I like the judges. And so we tried to open that up a little bit when I was on there. It's really easy for cooks to get mad at judges after the contest because they looked at your sheets and said, oh, no, that wasn't me. But it's kind of like I said, our food's never as good as we think it is, and it's never as bad as we get scored. But at the end of the day, yes, everybody said so. We've just got to open that up a little bit. And the only way we're going to do that is just be more social, yet still draw that line of the double blind.
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody else? Thomas, I guess you good?
No, I mean, I agree. There's got to be a way to connect the 2 groups. They're too separated.
Love it. I couldn't agree more. All right, Robert.
All right. Actually, next question goes to Thomas. In your questionnaire, in your answer regarding the long-term goals, you mentioned introducing a different kind of scoring system using technology. Could you talk a little bit more about what that is, what you envision, and how you think KCBS can financially support it?
So I think there's 2 components to it. The first one is we've got to get a way to remove the human element. And I should clarify, when I say update the scoring system, I don't mean the scoring rubric or the way the scores are tabulated. I'm speaking more to how we collect the scores from the judges, right? So it's an entirely manual process now. We're basically back to the carbon paper, credit card, slide machines, right? Like we're still using manually hand-entered data that is then handed to another person and then entered into a computer system. So we've got to remove that human element somehow and get to a place where there's only one input, which is then audited by a machine to validate the score before it's tabulated. And then the other part of that, and as I saw a question in the comment about the angel table and table of death, is there's got to be a way to normalize judge scores. And we have mountains and mountains of judging data as far back as God only knows. I mean, as far back as maybe KCBS started. And so we know which judges naturally score lower than others. And we know which judges naturally score higher than others. And so by normalizing that data in real time within a scoring system, you can completely eliminate the angel table and the table of death.
Yeah. What happens if every table is the same?
What do you mean every table is the same?
With the average, like if you get rid of,
it's not an average. It's not an average. It's normalizing based on each individual judge's judging history. So it's not an average.
Hey, Brian, here's the way I would look at it, right? Each table is a measurement gauge. Imagine you were going to measure, like get a micrometer out to measure a hub or something. You want those micrometers to be capable of measuring that thing consistently. Doesn't mean that they will, but that they're capable. So what you do, what Thomas is saying, you're creating the capability, right? Now we are the little Hubbard nut that we don't cook it right, then it isn't going to get scored the way we want it. But you got to make the capability of the tables to do the right thing. And right now it's random. So if you remember the old grade school, you got the random curve, right? The normal curve, those tails, right? And that's why I think we all, as cooks, kind of got a little offended when we heard that the number of tables at the Invitational didn't matter, right? I know David was very vocal about it, but the number of tables do matter. Because the more tables you get, the higher the population, the bigger the tails of that curve. And so at 2.5% of 100 tables is a lot more than 2.5% of 30 tables, right? So, I mean, it's geeky, but it's true. It's just the way it works.
Normalization will cut the tails off.
I'm just asking the questions. I'm not disagreeing with y'all. All right, Robert.
All right. The next question is for Brian. The other Brian.
Me. Oh, wait. Am I up?
It's you.
Me.
Let's hear the question. We'll decide which one takes it.
That's right. In the questionnaire, you mentioned gated material and availability of information for contest organizers. What did you mean by gated material? What other areas associated with organizer assistance could KCBS do better?
Yeah, to get the organizer packet, you've got to pay your deposit. And that deposit doesn't come back if you don't organize a contest. They just defer it eternally. So if I'm a guy that wants to organize a contest, to even get the contest packet, to find out what's required, what the requirements are, what I need to do, $400 before I ever go to a sponsor, before I pick a date, before the KCS gives me a date, before they check the radius, before I even approach an organizer, I'm out $400. That is impossible to get back. So I'm still paying tuition for a kid at school. It's a lot of money. So $400 could be the barrier between a new contest in Dayton, Ohio, not. I don't understand why that's a secret. If we want more contests, we want to make successful organizers, there's nothing in that packet that should be a secret. And I get the idea of a deposit for a date. So once, I understand the economics of it, but we're talking about photocopied 30 pages of paper. It's not $400 value, except it's a $400 barrier. And there are people that have offered to give it to me on the sly. Like, I get you a copy. I like, well, now I'm dealing on black market information. Like, go back to that conversation before. Like, why isn't that a free service to tell me what's required? And then when I come up with the $400 and I got a sponsor, we got a date, then the mentor comes on. And then we start talking about how I'm going to shadow somebody, what my goal is for sponsorship. So I need 10,000 or 15,000. Do I need to shoot for 32 teams or do I need to shoot for 40 teams? And how does the table count work based on my team count? But to even have the start of the conversation, you've got to write a $400 check. And I feel like that's a little bit backwards. And it is a barrier. I think it's a daunting ask to start the process of creating a new competition, a new contest.
That's awesome. So you're saying that we're making it too hard for organizers to come in and start and have a contest.
Yeah, just the information on how to do it shouldn't be a secret. If we want to do it, let's make that information available.
Right.
Like, why is it a mystery on how to create a new contest? We do it a few hundred times a year. What are we protecting by that? And I think it's just a procedural thing. I think the money's important, right? I understand the guarantee of having a budget to pay for the reps and to pay for the needs and enough crackers to go around twice. But the very beginning of the process shouldn't be, I call it a gated, just like the New York Times charges me to read the paper. It shouldn't be a secret on what that process looks like. If we really are interested in creating new contests and spreading the footprint of our contests in new areas.
That's awesome. Robert, did that answer your question?
It sure did.
Okay.
All right, next question is for David. David, so transparency or lack of has probably been the single most referenced issue when it comes to KCBS for as long as I've been doing this. What is the number one way KCBS can increase its transparency? Or
get off their high horse. Get off their high horse that it's not anybody's business but theirs. I think that's one of the biggest problems. I'll tell you, nothing has got me more upset than anything. It's now the fact is that they're holding every meeting clandestine. Every meeting's a closed meeting. There's no reason that I've talked to some board members and said, well, in the last year, we met with some nonprofit organization that said that we should not record our meetings and not let the membership in. Well, they didn't give any ability to watch it in Zoom or some avenue like we're seeing it. It's always been traditional that KCBS recorded it, put the recording up behind the membership wall, and it was there for a month. And then when the next meeting come out, you replaced it. I know very well because I was secretary of KCBS for 3 years straight. I kept the minutes and I did the recordings and posted the recordings and posted the minutes. And all those minutes went straight to the board members as soon as the meeting was over, within, depending on how much we had going on within that night or the next afternoon, to review them. Is there anything incorrect or anything that I've missed? And then we posted them for the members to look at. Now we're getting these watered down PTA minutes that are just an occurrence of what happened. And coupled with the fact that nobody can go to a city council meeting online like a board meeting, you don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm even hearing board members say that what the minutes say aren't exactly what happened in the meeting, but the minutes were censored or edited by certain officers or certain staff and then put it. I don't agree with that. And financials, we were at a period of time when I was on the board that we couldn't post financials. And then we got them out there. We put them out, and then we had to pull them back and not put them out. And there's no reason not to have a broad view of financials. I mean, we all bank at banks, and they don't give us their monthly P&L for the bank, but you do get a statement of assets and stuff once a year with a bank. It'll let you know how its health is. I'm not saying KCBS needs to be that stern, but we could at least just talk about it in the minutes or reflect it. I know when I was on the board, we talked about some of those things in the minutes, yet without posting a financial statement. And the other transparency issues is, you know, there's no reason to go into a session, a executive session, if you will, or closed session, as KCBS calls it, to talk about a contest. There's no reason to go into executive session, hell, to talk about the process by which we're all sitting here tonight. I mean, the most open and clear thing that should be in KCBS is the election process. And I hate to use the word rig the election, because I'm not saying the election's rigged by any means, but when you do it all behind closed doors and you have what I understand 8 or 10 or 11 guys that were nominated that met the requirements of what the bylaws say, not how someone wants to interpret the bylaws, that's not transparent. You know, it was just a year after I got in. Of course, one year I ran for election and they took some guys off the board and everybody said it was because they were trying to get me reelected. Well, that's a bunch of balderdash. But then even last year, there was a sitting board member running for reelection, and they wanted to disqualify him for being a candidate. And, you know, I jumped in the middle of that real strong with that board and wrote them a couple of letters. And having been a former mayor of my town and on the school board, we both had to take mandatory open meeting laws. So I understand a little about open meeting laws. Being a state FFA officer or a state FFA member and high school FFA member, they taught us Robert's Rules of Order from 8th grade. I was chairman of the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association for over 10 years. Now, if you want to learn some decorum and transparency, deal with a lot of gaming tribes for 10 years straight. That's a big burr under my saddle, guys, when you start talking about this transparency. Let's hide this stuff from the members. They don't need to know. Yeah, there's nothing KCBS is hiding that is benefiting them by hiding them, other than it's hurting them by us wondering what the hell's going on. And I think I put a little comment in my deal there, is I'm the guy that ain't afraid to poke the bear. And that's, I know Robert knows me and Paul knows me for a few years, that I'm not afraid to poke the bear.
Awesome. All right.
All right. Last question goes to Paul.
That's me. I'm up, guys. Y'all been waiting on it. You have process improvement experience. In your opinion, what are the top 2 processes within KCBS that need the most improvement?
Ooh. The easy one would be go to the scoring process. I think we've studied that, or Park Road has. I think we know some of that. I'm going to say that the number one process is really coming up with our strategy, right? So building the strategic vision, then creating the vision, the strategic vision, then coming back and creating the strategic mission, right? And then coming up with, I call them portfolios, right? Because everybody's like, well, Paul, you're going to get on, you want to create a table seating program. That is not my number one issue. It's not even in the top 3, right? Do I think there's problems with table of depth? Do I think that's an issue, right? Do I think we need some sort of a feedback loop for outlier judges? Sure. I don't think those are the things we need to deal with in the first year. We need to worry about getting growth ideas We got to figure out where we want to be. You know, we can use the banquet, right? Look at the banquet. I think that if you look at what Rod is wanting to do there, by having, you know, people come in, open it to the public, you know, expose barbecue, the concept is good. I don't know about the execution. I don't know the numbers right now. I know we had to get almost 300 in there, but so that concept, that idea, I want that to be more of a formal process as we ideate the concept and the ideas at a board level. But I want the ideas to come in from membership. Why do we assume, you know, those of us on this call tonight are the smart ones? Although most of you are smarter than me, I think our members have a tremendous amount of knowledge. So I'd love to see some of this strategic ideation of how to grow, right? Because even if somebody comes up with an idea that's maybe not perfect, but it sparks a side idea, and we say, hey, you know what? We can't do that, but we could do this. And then we start to ideate on how to grow, right? I mean, I just don't think the old recipe of 4 contests, you know, and teams spending, you know, $1,500 to travel 6 hours I don't think that's a growth strategy, right? The backyard, I think it's picking up. That's good. The one meat ribs are good, but we need other ways to grow, and we certainly need sponsorships. But for what I'm bringing you as a process issue, I think is right now critical is getting that strategic vision and strategy. That's the one process. It's easy to scapegoat to the scoring process, you know, and that's more of a technology issue because it's heavy process because we got so old of technology, right? You'd want me to say that, but it's not number one.
Awesome, man. Y'all made it through all of the agenda questions. Congratulations, everybody. You did it, Robert. They made it. Nothing. It was great, and that's all where I think David
Very good answers.
Put in there. It says very encouraging to see everybody nodding for each other. I think that's how. This is my ignorance. How many spots are open on the board?
3.
3. Okay.
3 spots.
3 spots. See, I didn't know that. Thank y'all. See, Robert. There we go.
There you go.
All right. Here's my thing. Right, y'all all know that I am a huge KCBS supporter. Right, y'all know that about me. Huge KCBS supporter. I love KCBS. I am the guy that's sitting there saying that KCBS is still the #1 sanctioning body in the world for barbecue. I believe that. I believe there are issues that can make it better. Right. I think that the reps are the face of KCBS. I'm the guy that at a contest as a cook, I feel like the reps are the face of KCBS. It's not Rod Gray. It's not the board. It's not anything else. I feel like the reps are the face for most teams at a contest. When they think of KCBS, that's who they think of. What can we do for the reps to give them the information, to give them whatever they need to be the face at a contest? And what is, I mean, or is that even important? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious what y'all think of as reps, or if you know any reps or anything like that. What are your thoughts on that? How can we support reps as a frontline person?
Let me jump in there real quick. First of all, you know, if we could get somebody like Robert and Lex to be reps, that would be awesome. They're so talented, right?
Amen. If we could make that happen, that would be awesome.
But no, seriously though, I've had the luck of working with the Drexlers a lot, right? And you know, their process is impressive, right? If you're a happy-go-lucky person in their tent, you're probably not going to like it, right? Because they towed the line, right? And they do that because our technology is fairly old, right? So there's not a lot of leeway in that tent, right? And, you know, you learn to appreciate the discipline. Now, having said that, I'm not for kind of what I saw, you know, some reprimands to the reps for outcomes, right? I would, rather than reprimand our reps, I would rather fix the technology or fix the processes or educate them on the potholes of the processes and keep doing it. Because I think, you know, unfortunately, we had some reps that ran into 2 unique potholes. One of them was a design issue for the entire event. Massive, right? I don't hold any single one person. I hold the organization itself accountable, right? And we have to start at the top. And I think Rod's already accepted accountability, but we didn't have the people there to do that. That's process.
All right, really quick. Rod is the CEO. He reports to the board members. Well, I don't know why Rod gets all the heat when the board members are his bosses. It needs to go to above Rod. Rod is just the CEO. The board members are the ones that tell him what to do. That's my anyway. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but go ahead.
No, but I mean, the board, if we get in, the board would be the ones, but I don't want to see a board president talking about reprimanding reps when the technology, do you realize we don't pay the reps much at all, right? I don't know what the average hourly wage is. It's probably under $10 an hour if you factor it all in. So why are we expecting perfection, right? We got people who are just passionate about it that are channeling their barbecue in a different vein, right? So we need to work on the technology, but in the advent, because we don't have the money to do that flat out, right? We've got to really talk about all these process issues and be very vocal. I know they have a rep meeting. Hopefully, I'm not in that meeting, but hopefully they're talking about all these issues with the table number 7 and with, the contest ID and, making sure they're unique and 2 separate laptops and all that. So, I mean, the answer is you cannot over communicate to the reps, right, on these process issues. And as soon as I run into an oh shit moment, we ought to be talking about that at the next rep meeting. And we ought to be talking about how do we not have that happen again? But here's the key. We need that to get to all reps, right? Not just the ones that are on the call. So, we're going to have to deal with that with processes in the short term, Brian, because we don't have the money to fix it technology wise.
Yeah. And Brian, that goes right along your, right up your alley with communication. Communication is key. All right. Robert, do you have anything else? You're muted. You're muted.
I always do it. I do that at work too. Not really. Is there something else? We have one more from the chat, and then we can call it a night.
Well, I don't know if we have anything else from the chat. Thomas is down here like chatting and answering questions. This guy's he's on fire down here. I love it.
Multitasking.
It's great. Since I don't have any more, there's some other questions in here, but I'm going to go ahead and give y'all a real quick opportunity. And I'm going to start with Robert. If you were to become a rep, Robert, no, I'm just kidding. Paul, everybody, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity one last time to give your final thoughts. How can people get in touch with you? Whatever, just give you an opportunity. Paul, I'll start with you. And then I'm going to go Paul, Thomas, David, Brian, just the way I see it on my screen. So real quick, Paul, final statements for the night.
Well, first of all, I think KCBS is in good hands because three of us and or the ones that are not online are going to get on the board. And I think somebody called it out earlier about the head nods. I think we're in strong alignment. If you listen to our questions and our positions, I know I've had the opportunity to be on with Thomas and Brian before and chat with them. So I know we're aligned. So the good news is I don't think there's a bad vote there. But so I don't want anybody to think we're in chaos or any of that. We do have a financial problem, right? We have to address that. But you can get a hold of me at Smoking Ghost Barbecue or at Paul Buab on either TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not on Snapchat, so don't look for me there. And yes, Robert, that'd be great if you were a rep.
Thank you, Paul.
Only because I could win ribs again.
You're all drinking.
Thomas.
As a member of the organization, I feel good about its future, given the strong slate of candidates for this year and the existing board members and the membership in general. If I could vote for everyone that's up for nomination this year, I would. I think I've said it before. I'm probably more bullish on the organization than a lot of people, but that's just my nature. And if anybody has any questions, they can find me on Facebook or you can find me at tom@mudvillebarbecue.com.
Real quick, shameless plug. Is there any kind of new organization that somebody might want to sign up for?
It's funny you ask, Brian.
Okay.
I happen to be involved with a brand new organization that just launched. It's the Mid-South Barbecue Association. You can join by going to midsouthbarbecueassociation.com. First contest is going to be coming up in 2024. We've got a 6-state Team of the Year race and State Cup championship coming up in 2024. So visit the website, sign up, and I look forward to seeing everybody in 2024.
Man, I had no clue that was happening. Oh, great. I was there. David?
I love KCBS, and I love the rich tradition that it has done. There's a lot of blood, sweat, tears that created KCBS. I honestly, thoroughly believe that the board, as it's set right now, is comprised of 9 good people with great intentions. I think there's a good office full of employees that are working hard with the mission of promoting KCBS. I think we need to get established a little more guidance of where we're going and what we're doing. We all need to get to rooting for each other again. You know, camaraderie kind of fell away to a point when the Sam's tour went away, because it just become us versus them, or this contest versus that contest, or who got into the jack or who didn't get into the jack, or I didn't get picked for this. In the Sam's tour, we all had a shot to win the gold. And KCBS was riding high when a big nationwide tour was going on. And when I say Sam's, that's how it's all known. I talked about earlier that we need a product to sell to sponsors. We have a product that we sell to our organizers, and that's our scoring system and our oversight and regulatory side, you know, of the organization of it. Without any sponsors, we can't fund that other side and get the software fixed like we want it and stuff like that. But then if we all have a common goal, and that's all of us are trying to get into Sam's, and we all got a shot because we can all enter, that just creates a whole new stigma of enthusiasm across barbecue, across the nation, not just in Oklahoma, not just in Ohio, Indiana, not just in California, but a whole nationwide setup. And the only way it's going to happen at this point is for KCBS to roll up its sleeves, put together a program, go out there and sell it to a group of backers that'll say, okay, I'll put my company's money into it. I'll put my company's into it. Then depend on our cooks to act as somewhat as our bankers too, by I'm going to enter this contest. We're going to take 50 in each round and things like that, and put all this back on the map again. Coupled with that, get rid of all this anti-transparency stuff of let the members know what's going on, give the members a say. Don't guide board members by someone who's practicing law without any law license in Kansas City to tell you you can't do this when it's our organization. At the end of the day, it's your, and I'm talking to the members out there watching this, it's your organization. And all of us on this call, it's our organization, or we wouldn't even be here tonight. Hell, we could be watching Monday Night Football. But we believe in what we're doing. And that's why I'm running for the board, because I've got that experience to get us all back together again and make it happen and keep us solvent, but then keep us all back in harmony. And there's not a bad candidate on this slate. It's true. There's not a bad, no one's going to, we're not going to go downhill regardless of whoever gets elected in these next 3, because there's guys that are very competent that are on this board.
I agree 100%. Brian?
I tell you, 6 months ago, I'd never thought I'd be in this company. I just like to hang out with Paul when he cleans up at the end of the competition. And now I get to be on this call with you guys and Brian and Thomas. Just looking forward to seeing you guys when I get down south come springtime. I'm bullish too. Like Thomas said, I'm excited about it. And I think that our solution is in the membership. And if we take down that veil of secrecy down, we turn all these teams and judges into ambassadors for the brand. And I think once there's confidence in what happens in the office in Kansas City amongst the membership, then that organic growth will start to happen. And when that happens, the things of the leadership of that Paul can bring and the process and that strategic vision and planning, and what Thomas and Dave are talking about around process and judging and sort of bringing that stuff up to the 21st century, then we're going to see growth. But I think first is to have the membership, the general membership, those guys that are bitching and complaining in the Facebook page all the time. Once you make those guys bring confidence to them, to the unwashed masses like me out there, once you bring confidence there, then growth happens. It's when I have a good experience, I'm telling other folks about my weekend, and they want to know when the next class is that they can drive to, whether that's Virginia or West Virginia or Tennessee, they've got to go to from here. And the same with teams. Once a team has an experience that they can share with somebody else, that's how we have new teams into the fold. And but I don't think the membership confidence is there in what's happening. And we change that by taking down the veil of secrecy and opening up the process. And David and Thomas and Paul, we've all talked about that. We're on the same page. And once that happens, we've built an army of ambassadors for KCBS, and then nothing's impossible at that point.
I love it. Robert, I don't know about you. I feel confident in all 4 of these guys on here. I think it's amazing. I had no clue what it was going to go like tonight. I really didn't. I just know that I called Robert and I said, Robert, you're the man for this. Let's make this happen. And I'm glad we did this. I feel very, like I've said before, I'm a huge proponent in KCBS. I think it is the world's best sanctioning body. Does it have issues? Sure, they all do. But I think if we can get KCBS headed, not that it's going in the wrong direction. I don't think it's going the wrong. I think there's issues like everybody else. We all think there's issues. Can it get fixed? Sure. I think it's going to get fixed. And I think we have 4 guys on here. I apologize once again for not getting the other 2 on. I apologize. I tried. But y'all have been awesome tonight. Thank you so much. And I will say, next to Sam's, David, is that Atlanta Barbecue Store Classic contest down here.
There you go. That's right.
I mean, it's a big contest. You got to win that thing. And Brian, that next class, it's that Atlanta Barbecue Store Classic class coming up here in January. There's all kinds of stuff happening. I've got to give a little bit of plugs for my stuff in here, just a little bit. But anyway, Robert, finish this off tonight. What you got?
Hey, I just wanted to thank you all for being on tonight. When I went through your questionnaires online, I tried to generate some questions associated with what you put in your bio there. Y'all did a great job answering that, and you're all great candidates, in my opinion, especially based on what we heard tonight. And I thank you for being on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you both.
Thanks for having us.
Brian, thanks
Does
for
that
putting
mean
this
there's
together.
going to be an Atlanta barbecue contest in Illinois?
Say that one more time.
You said something like Sam's, it's the Atlanta. So are you going to create a contest in every state?
You know what? We are struggling just getting one. So we're going to work on that. I'm telling you what, though, we are in big works this year for the Atlanta Barbecue Store Classic. I'm trying to make it be something like a Sam's, but not really. I would like to get, we're in works of, I'm going to get in touch with Thomas. I'm going to get in touch with all you guys that are outside the area, see if we can't bring in the top 2 or 3 from each local sanctioning, or not sanctioning body, but Mid-South
Regional Association.
Yeah. See if we can do something to bring everybody into our contest. It's at the end of the year, laid back situation. Come in and have it be a contest that everybody wants to come win. I don't know if it's going to happen. That's the goal. We're going to work into it. We're going to look into it and see what we can do. But yeah, we're trying to make the ABS Classic a contest everybody wants to go to. So anyway, thank you guys so much. We look forward to. We will not see you next week on Chewin the BBQ Fat. Next week is Christmas. Next Monday night is Christmas. I hope each and every one of you has a great Christmas. Remember the reason for the season. It's all about Jesus' birth. Y'all remember that. Go celebrate. Have a good time. Cook up something great for your family and have a good time. And we will see you soon on Chewin the BBQ Fat. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.